I have a story about an ex-girlfriend that went a bit crazy and really taught me a lesson about dating. Mainly to get the hell away from anyone that starts to throw red flags at you in high quantities over a short period of time. When I met Ada Lynn, shortened to Lynn, I was immediately smitten. She was everything I wanted in a girl. She was a solid 10 for me, was super polite to literally everyone, loved the same things as me, and she didn't really have a wild side. I've always been a bit of a wallflower, so I wasn't looking for anyone that had a crazy social life or liked to be out in public all the time. Lynn was, as I got to know her over the couple weeks before we dated, perfect to me. And I fell super hard super fast. She and I were very happy together for about 3 months. Things were perfect. She would stay at my apartment every weekend, and we were making plans for the future. Lynn seemed like she was the perfect partner for me, and I really thought that we had a very bright time ahead of us. Of course, with the good things come the bad. Around this time, my mother was hit with a cancer diagnosis, and me being her only child, I felt the need to commit a lot of time to her, to help her where she needed. My dad hasn't been around since I was 5, so a lot of it fell on my shoulders. I had no problem bearing this weight, as I love my mother and I wasn't going to let her struggle. Helping my mother, of course, meant that I wasn't home as much as I used to be. I ended up having to set time aside to take my mother to her treatments, and I ended up staying over at her apartment several nights because I didn't want her to be alone. And I had to shave off a lot of the time that I got to see Lynn. At first, she was fine with it. She hadn't met my mother, but she said that she understood and she was supportive of me being the one to help her. That lasted about 2 weeks. Until one night when I got home, she was sitting in the parking lot waiting for me. I was a bit shocked that she was there since it was like 10 at night, and I hadn't told her I was going to be home that night. The only reason I came home is because my mom told me to go get some sleep in my bed instead of sleeping on her couch, and that she would be fine. She approached me as I walked up to my apartment, and she seemed happy at first, until I mentioned that I was exhausted. She then immediately started asking me why I was so tired. I told her that I'd been helping my mom all day, and that I'd spent the last few hours rearranging furniture to make things more accessible, in case my mom got worse. And she came back with, "Are you sure you were with your mom? Are you sure you weren't with another woman?" I will say that I may have responded harshly to her when she said this. Something about being accused of cheating after I spent a whole day helping my mother, who needed me, compounded with the stress of my life at the time, just set me over the edge. I went off. I asked who the hell she thought she was to even insinuate that. I called her a few names that I probably shouldn't have, and then I told her to go to hell. Like I said, as much as I was really head over heels for her, I was not in a good headspace, and her saying that really messed me up. It was a quick and rash decision to end something that I held so dear, but if she was going to start down that route while I was dealing with my mother, then I was done. And, of course, that wasn't the end of it. In fact, that was where things started to go insane. A couple of days later, I got home from work, and as soon as I walked into my apartment, I wanted to freak out. Nothing was taken or broken, but it was pretty clear that someone had broken into my home, and I could pretty quickly figure out who it was. There were post-it notes all over my apartment stuck to various things, and on each of them was a personal note. But they were such a mixed bag of emotions. For instance, one said something like, I miss our late nights together. And then the next would say, I hope you and your new girl die in a fire. It didn't say girl, it used a different word, but I find it degrading, so I won't include it here. You can figure out what it said. There were, if I remember correctly, 170-something notes all over the place. Clearly, she was a bit unhinged with her unfounded accusations. I called Lynn and asked her what her problem was, and she told me that she didn't know what I was talking about. I mentioned the notes, and she just kind of tried to play it off like, oh, yeah, that. I don't know, I was just in a bad mood. I told her that she had committed a crime by breaking into my apartment, and she laughed and told me that I couldn't prove that she broke in. I, once again, went off. I told her that I was done with her, that she needed to move on and get over me because I wanted nothing to do with her. She then said that she wanted me to reconsider my statement, and I doubled down, telling her that she needed to leave me alone before I called the cops and got a restraining order. I didn't think I would actually be able to get one. I just wanted to put it in her head that she needed to leave me alone. That next morning, when I got up to go to my mom's, I went out to my car, and once again, she was waiting in the parking lot. She got out of her car and started to approach me, but I just got in my car and drove off as fast as I could, hoping that she would get the idea that I was willing to ignore her existence. She then made it really hard to ignore her. When I got home and saw a fire axe sticking in my front door. Like, it was seriously dug into the wood and just sitting there. That was a really fun conversation to have with the leasing office, that I had come home to that, and they certainly thought it was confusing. I just had to tell them that I'd had a nasty breakup. I ended up having to pay for the door since it was technically vandalism by somebody that I knew, which was fine. I didn't really care. Over that week, every day when I would leave, I would see her sitting in the parking lot just staring at me. I wasn't even sure if she was leaving or if she was living in her car in the parking lot just so that she could stalk me. What's even more strange was the fact that this went on for about 10 days, and then she was just gone. Just like that. She was no longer in the parking lot, and I never saw her again. Like, at all. She never attempted to contact me again, she never came back, and I have not seen her since that last day. I have literally no idea what happened to her. If she just realized that she should move on, or if something actually did happen to her, but she's been out of my life completely. While I don't wish harm on anyone, Lynn did put a fire axe through my front door. So, to be honest, I don't have a problem with her just disappearing. That's my story about my ex. The woman that I thought was perfect, that went from 0 to 60 on the crazy scale over the matter of a couple of days. And over something as dumb as me spending more time with my mother, who was going through cancer treatments. If anyone wants to know, my mother went into remission and has only had one concerning moment since then. Right now, she is fully in remission and living a very happy life. I've also gone on to a couple other relationships, but nothing long-term.